Hi, I'm Leah. This is my first in a little series of videos that I'm making about autism awareness and to help other people who maybe they don't know that they're autistic, or maybe you might think you might be autistic and maybe seeking diagnosis, or maybe you know someone who's autistic, or maybe you just want to know about it anyway. If you're watching this from Instagram, then you'll be used to seeing most of our posts being about our artwork and things. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then we're pretty new to YouTube. This first one is about sensory things, and I'm just talking from my own personal experience, how I experience sensory things. So I wasn't diagnosed until I was well into adulthood, and I never realised that what I was feeling wasn't what everybody else was feeling. So I just assumed that everything that I felt was exactly the same as everybody else. So if I was having sensory difficulties, I just thought that I had to, I don't know what I thought really, I just thought that I had to just go that's like the same for everyone. And then, yeah, as I've got older, I've learned how to look after myself better with my sensory difficulties. So I thought I'd just go through, I always have a list because I really forget things easily, and just to make sure I don't forget anything. So I thought I'd just go through some of the things that I personally experience. Every autistic person will probably experience things slightly different, and some very different, just the same as any people. Everybody's different, everybody experiences things different. So I'm just talking from my own personal experience and what things feel like to me. So the first one I've got down is touch and feeling. So my biggest difficulty with this is clothes. And I've always had this difficulty, and for as long as I can remember. There'll be a lot of people who will feel slight sensory difficulties with clothes and things like the labels and things if they're really scratchy. But this is quite extreme because it's like I can feel that with any labels, and the seams inside the clothes, kind of up the sleeves or in trousers, I can feel those seams all the time, like constantly. So yeah, the seams in the clothes, the labels in the clothes, the shape of the clothes, the cut of the clothes, waistbands, in socks and shoes, if it's like kind of fitted, things are fitted, so where socks are kind of fitted around the bands at the top, that feels extremely uncomfortable to me. I often have to cut them off. In fact, most of my socks I've had to cut the tops off because I can't even bear it. And the same with my t-shirts. Like, most of the time I wear them inside out, and I'm quite aware that because there are people telling me that that's kind of to go out with inside out t-shirts isn't normal. And most people don't walk out around with their t-shirts inside out. But if I have them the right way through, that's really, really uncomfortable most of the time. And as soon as I get home, I have to change them around and change what I'm wearing. So at home, I would just wear really, really soft clothes, and I have a few t-shirts that I can bear the seams on. And I save those for going out if I have to go out in one. So yeah, that does impact me socially and going out, because if I'm really sensory overwhelmed, it makes it really, really hard to focus on other things. Like, everything just starts to pile up and feel really, really difficult and overwhelming. I'm trying to find my best ways to describe this. So yeah, I think that's kind of what it is like, if it feels too much, other things start to feel too much, it all starts to snowball and feel really difficult. So I have to try and find the most creative ways I can to feel as comfortable as I can when I go out. And this changes, it's not the same every day. Like, some days are easier than others with that. Like, some days feel really uncomfortable, and then other days feel less uncomfortable and stuff. So depending on how I'm feeling that day, but I would say most of the time I feel really uncomfortable with that. It's the same with glasses. I'm supposed to wear glasses. I couldn't even think about putting contact lenses in, but I'm supposed to wear glasses, and I just take them off like within minutes, really, because that just the feeling on my nose. This isn't being picky. This is like it really, really is uncomfortable. The feeling on my nose to wear glasses or sunglasses, and sunglasses would be really useful because of light sensitivity, but I just can't bear the feeling on my skin because that's probably one of my biggest sensitivities is touch and wearing things. Oh, what else was I going to say about that? Oh yeah, water on my skin most of the time feels really, really uncomfortable because of temperature mostly. Yeah, in fact, yeah, pretty much mostly is just to do with temperature of water. So if it's a temperature that I can stand, then I really, really, really like water. But most of the time, I find it's the temperature is really uncomfortable. You know, like in swimming pools and things like that, and the smell of the chlorine, that would be really intense, and the noise. So that's another social thing of going out. To go out to a swimming pool most of the time be really, really uncomfortable. I've only been to one swimming pool that it felt okay, and it felt nice, and I liked it. So this information might be useful, like for parents of autistic children that might not realise just how extreme the feeling of sensory difficulties might be. Yeah, and also, you know, to society as well, because like for people that are verbal autistic, you know, it's not really like that obvious, if at all, that people are autistic, they are. So that can be really difficult because you could be suffering from really intense sensory difficulties, and you know that might just seem really strange to a lot of people. So that's part of the reason why I'm trying to bring awareness to that, because it's recently been Autism Awareness Week Day, and yeah, I didn't do anything at the time, so I'm just starting my own little series of videos to help with that now. And especially from the point of view of going all through childhood and young adulthood without knowing, I feel like there's some things that might be really useful to other people. Hopefully, if it's not, it doesn't matter. It's okay, I'll just put it out anyway. So yeah, so that's touch and feeling. Also, people brushing up against me, that feels really uncomfortable. I can't really explain it, but it just feels really, really uncomfortable. Yeah, like light touch feels very, very uncomfortable. Firmer pressure feels fine. So to me, yeah, so like everybody might experience it slightly different. So with sound, yeah, I actually really love music, and I have music on all the time, pretty much. Like I would say like 90 to 95% of the time I've got music on. And I really love music and sounds. And I even like loud music some of the time. If it's music that I know and I know what order things are coming in and nothing's a surprise to me, and I really like that. But most of the time with other kinds of loud noises, that can be really hard depending on the noise. So there's some loud noises that feel okay. My main trigger is clanking plates and dishes and cutlery and things like that, but especially like things on plates, like dishes and things being moved, and pots and pans. That is just, it's something to do with the pitch and the tone, I think. You know, the tone of the sound feels really, really, really uncomfortable. I just want to cover my ears, and yeah, I like things with hoods. That's not why I'm wearing it right now. It's actually raining. It's very peaceful here, but it's raining. So things with hoods are really nice because I can just put my hood up if I need to. Just cushion my ears a little bit. So yeah, dishes clanking. Oh, restaurants I find really difficult places to be. Not that I really go to things like that really, but like very often. But yeah, to go in a restaurant is quite difficult, depending again on the restaurant and what the sound movement is like, you know, like kind of I suppose the acoustics of the place. Some places can be really, really loud, and it's, to me, sound often feels more difficult. Like the clanking dishes, it could just be one clanking dish, and that's really, really hard noise to manage. But like with a lot of other things, like say restaurants and things where there's lots of people, it's the layers of sound of all the people talking in different places at the same time, and then there might be a stereo on and music on the background, and all, you know, chairs sort of being moved in and out and things like that. So it's a build up and layer up of all these different noises. It feels to me like I can't really sort those sounds into, you know, like it doesn't come as like some quieter and some louder, like as I think it does for other people. I only know this from asking other people. So like as I've got older, I started to ask other people sometimes like how they experience things, so that I could learn more about, you know, the difference of what that felt like to me. So yeah, it seems like maybe other people sort sound in a better way, like non-autistic people or people that aren't triggered by sound. And yeah, so like say something that could be quieter to someone else might sound really, really loud to me, and then something that's louder could be quieter, and something I'm supposed to be hearing, like the person who's actually sitting next to me and I'm trying to listen to them, can be just completely muffled out by a sound that's quite far away. I don't know, it just seems like it's in the wrong order or something with sound, so that can feel really difficult to deal with group things and sound. Sorry, I've got my voice muddled a bit. Yeah, so pitch and tone and volume. With hearing, this feels like a weird one. Like sometimes, like I feel like I've got like really acute hearing, and then other times I can feel like someone's talking to me and I can't quite hear what they're saying, and like I have to tilt my head to listen to what they're saying properly. And focus really hard to listen. Again, that's probably like some overwhelm of other things, and I'm just trying to sort that one sound that I'm trying to focus in on and listen to. Yeah, repetitive sound. I put this down as something to talk about because I kind of have two different sides to that. I quite like repetitive music, in some repetitive music. And the repetition of certain sounds, but then other, I suppose that's the same for anyone though, like then other kinds of repetitive sound, not necessarily just music, just repetitive sound can feel really, really disruptive and difficult to be in, and very, very loud and very intense. So yeah, I don't like the feeling at all of earplugs and earphones, you know, the music player earphones. I can't stand the feeling inside my ears. So I have headphones, but then I do feel really self-conscious to go out with my headphones. Yeah, so they feel the most comfortable, and I like that cushioned feeling over my ears, but I do feel really self-conscious to be in a public place with headphones on. Yeah, you know, like a social situation or something, even though that kind of numbing of the sound a little bit can actually help me to hear what people are saying in a way. That might sound really strange to some people, but I feel that feels uncomfortable, that it's kind of, you know, that I shouldn't wear headphones, you know, in that kind of situation. So that can be difficult. Sight and light. My difficulties with lighting is definitely overhead lighting. So when I was a child, there was a lot of lamps in the house, so that wasn't so much of a difficulty for me. There was strip lights in the kitchen, which I didn't realise at the time that I had such difficulty with strip lights. So if I would feel uncomfortable with something, it just felt like discomfort. I couldn't really pinpoint or sort my feelings enough to know what it was that was making me feel uncomfortable. So I only really found that out later, and I used to work in a shop that had strip lights, and that was intensely uncomfortable. Like I really hated the strip lights overhead, and that was more than, you know, when I was younger it was just one little strip light, but this shop had loads and loads of strip lights, and it was just terrible to try and cope with that. So I'd like try and shelter my eyes and things, and I squint a lot. Like, yeah, also open, like when there's no cloud and bright sun, it does feel uncomfortable in one way, but it's actually easier. I find that kind of light easier to deal with than if there's a covering of cloud and the light is filtering through the cloud. That feels really more painful to me. That feels very, very painful, that kind of light. Yeah, so what else have I got? Oh, flashing lights, like kind of Christmas lights and things like that. I actually really love fairy lights, but I have them on a very low moving twinkle, or just completely still and just on. So anything that's flashing is really, really distracting and quite overwhelming. Yeah, I feel like I can see better with peripheral vision than if I'm straight on. Like, so if I'm trying to read something, or take something in visually, I often tilt my head to the side a bit, and that feels a lot easier to focus and see. Temperature is another of the things that I find the hardest, and yeah, that has been very obvious. That probably one of the most obvious to people if I go out and socially. I just constantly get comments of, about me having coats on and lots of jumpers on, and, kind of jokes and sarcasm, which I don't really get anyway. Like, I just don't understand that kind of thing, like jokes and a lot, not all jokes, but a lot of jokes and sarcasm. So, yeah, that often leaves me quite confused. So, yeah, I have to have a lot of jumpers on all the time and a lot of layers and scarves and things like that, even in summertime, unless it's really, really hot weather. And then I feel the other way and I get too hot. I seem to, like, most of the time have difficulty to be of a temperature that's kind of just comfortable. So I go from freezing cold to just boiling hot. And to try and get that nice in between comfortable temperature is, yeah, I have to really work with that to get that. So most of the time I'm just very, very cold. And I've had lots of tests for other things, like thyroid things and stuff like this, but this has been like literally since, like, as long as I can ever remember. I've always been freezing cold. So yeah, I just look after myself and I put lots of coats on, and even if people want to say something about that, I'm not really bothered at all, because I'd rather be comfortable. So yeah, I've always got lots of warm clothes on, and then occasionally here and there I can go out in a t-shirt. But if there's the slightest bit of breeze on my skin, I can't bear it and I have to put a jumper back on. And that's the same with the temperature of the water, like I was saying earlier. So yeah, in showers, I don't like baths at all. I really, really hate sitting in baths, but the shower water I have to have a temperature warm enough to be all right with, if I can. Obviously, if I can, if that's possible for me, then that's more comfortable. Yeah, and then sniffing things, I really like sniffing things. Like, there's occasional things that I don't like petrol. I can't stand the smell of petrol. And that's really, really overbearing and, yeah, just too much. And chemical perfume things, chemical cleaning products, yeah, and synthetic perfumes, anything like that, I find, yeah, really overwhelming. But apart from that, I actually like sniffing things, and I like to have things to sniff in my bag. So I've got like little bottles of oils and things that I like to sniff, and that's really nice. Yeah, I'll put down taste. Yeah, I think I'm generally okay with taste. It's more texture for me with food. Yeah, textures of food, which again is coming to feeling things. So I have a lot of difficulty with textures of different foods. So I've got a lot of things. I've got a varied diet, and there's a lot of things that I love, but there's certain textures that I just can't bear. It just feels too much. So oh, I've got another note there. Yeah, so going back to when I was really, investigating the things that were the most uncomfortable for me and the things that I could do instead, like, and coming up with my own solutions and ideas of things that I could do to make myself feel better. I really, didn't know a lot of, couldn't identify a lot of what I was feeling. As I say, it just felt like everything just run into one thing of just, I just felt uncomfortable, and that was it. Like I couldn't identify it as, oh, it's to do with sound, or it's to do with touch. Oh, I could with touch more, because I used to get really upset with the clothes and the, uncomfortableness. But with a lot of other things, I would just feel really, really stressed and really, really overwhelmed, and have difficulty to pinpoint what it was, that I could change and do something with. So that's been a lot easier. Everything's been a lot easier to be able to do something with that, and change things with that. I mean, in our house, we've always had low lamp lighting everywhere. Like, there is no bright lights in our house at all. They're slightly brighter in the kitchen, just for safety and seeing when you're chopping and things, but anywhere that it's not and on the stairs there's a brighter light, but anywhere where it's not necessary to have a bright light, it's like really, really low lamp lighting. So it's low level lighting. Not we have got overhead lights, but we don't really have them on very often, apart from in the kitchen. Yeah, so yeah, that was the only other thing, was just coming back to that. This isn't exaggerating or being picky and things like that. It's literally just an honest explanation of how that feels, and how intense that can feel a lot of the time, and probably most of the time, really, for a lot of it, certainly with some of the senses. So yeah, I hope that's helped anyone that needs help to kind of try and process their own feelings, or anyone that's trying to understand someone that is having difficulty with things like that. Yeah, and I've got some more videos to make on different things to do with being autistic. None of it is from any point of view of, oh, it's really hard for me. It's like, I think obviously lots of people have lots of difficulties in different ways and about different things, and it is really difficult. And I think the main difficulty is socially. And the difficulties with socializing to do with sensory overwhelm. So I'm going to come back, I'm going to do that in a different video, all about socialization, because that's probably where it's the most difficult, because I can change my sensory experiences at home, but going out and around other people, that becomes really, really difficult. So yeah, I'm literally just making this video to help, and with anybody that might help, and to bring awareness to anyone that needs to try and sort their own feelings, or be more aware for someone they live with or know, or anything like that, really. Just put it out there. So yeah, hope that's helped.